Hey everybody! If you've been with me on the channel for a bit, you might have seen my video where I grew Tabasco peppers in these cracky buckets. Today I'm going to take these peppers and make a Tabasco hot sauce out of them, so let's get started. Tabasco hot sauce, and really any Louisiana style hot sauce for that matter, are really easy to make. They only have 3 ingredients, those ingredients being peppers, vinegar, and salt. The peppers are fermented though, so I'm putting all my peppers in this fermentation jar to get them started. And then we're going to add a brine that's made of water and salt. So that'll be 2 of our 3 ingredients, the peppers and the salt. And then after the fermentation has occurred is when we'll add the vinegar. So to get started on the brine, I'm going to measure out my salt. I have about 400 grams of water in my measuring cup. So I'm going to use about 12 grams of salt because I'm going for a 3% brine. So 3% of 400 is 12. So 12 grams of salt would make a 3% brine by weight. I'm using pink Himalayan salt. You can also use just plain sea salt, but don't use iodized salt. Here I'm going to add it to my water and then just give it a good mix till it dissolves, and that will create our brine. Now I'm just going to pour the brine that we made into the jar until all the peppers are covered. The fermentation process we're after is lacto-fermentation, and it's an anaerobic process. So we're trying to create an environment that's devoid of oxygen where those bacteria will thrive. I'm making sure all the peppers are covered here, and then I'm actually going to use a spring to force them all down beneath the surface into that environment that's primed for fermentation. This was a little hard with the Tabasco peppers because they're so small. Some of them tried to wiggle their way around the spring and float to the top. Ideally, they'd all be beneath the surface of the brine, and I was a little nervous about this one, but it all turned out in the end. This is a little kit from Ball where it comes with the jar, the spring, and these special lids that allow CO2 out as it's created by the bacteria. So I'm going to link that in the video description if you're interested. This is after 2 months, though. In the closet, you can see we've got a little bit of yeast going. There's some bubbles in there that were caused by the bacteria creating CO2 as they ate the sugars in the peppers. But it seems like a successful ferment here. You can tell like the brine has gone a little yellow. The peppers look much softer, and I'm sure that flavor will be amazing. It smelled really good while it was fermenting, so I'm excited to crack this one open. Getting into it here though, the first thing I'm going to do is strain the peppers out of the brine, just pouring out my jar over a bowl to catch the brine with a little mesh strainer to catch the peppers. And then we're going to add just the peppers to a small blender here. These already smell so good as I'm doing this though. They have that nice kind of pungent fermenty smell to them, and they smell spicy as well. So Tabascos are in kind of the 30 to 50,000 Scoville range, so this is a decently warm hot sauce. I wouldn't call it mild by any means, but I'm scooping up all these guys. Don't want any stragglers here. Got to catch every last one. And last but not least, it's time for our third ingredient of this 3-ingredient hot sauce, and that is vinegar. I'm using distilled white vinegar because that's kind of the classic Louisiana style variety of vinegar to use. And I'm just adding enough to cover the Tabasco peppers in the blender. So no more, but enough to cover it. They actually use a lot more vinegar than this in the commercial sauce production. So if you want your sauce thinner, kind of like a commercially available Tabasco sauce, definitely feel free to add more. I just want a little more flavor, a little more heat. So I just put in enough to cover them up. And now it's time to blend. Once it's blended, your sauce is done though, and you can feel free to give it a taste. You can see if it needs anything. If you think it needs a little salt, definitely add some brine. Remember that brine we added a lot of salt to, so that'll add some salt. If you want it a little more sour, you can add some more vinegar. And if you want it a little more liquidy, you can definitely add kind of equal parts vinegar and brine, and that's a good way to just make it thinner. You can also strain it through a fine mesh strainer if you don't want all of these seeds and Tabasco skins and stuff in there, but that's totally optional. It's kind of cool having a thicker Tabasco sauce. I think it tastes great though, and I like the consistency. I'm primarily going to use this one for cooking, so I'm just going to keep it as is. I might put it in some empty salad dressing bottles like this that I've cleaned out to just keep it in the fridge until I use it. I'll use it quick enough for that. But if you want to store it long term, you can definitely properly bottle it or can it, and it should last a very long time being as acidic as it is. But that's all there is to it. This is delicious, easy to make, and really fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed.